Home of the Brave, Day 3. Before we get started today and before we label Day 3 in our Reader's Journal, we're going to take a moment and reflect to make sure that we're remembering what's happening from day to day. So we're going to make a quick little timeline, and not a whole lot of events have happened so far because a lot of the book so far has been character development. We're learning a lot about Kek and his internal thoughts when there haven't been a ton of events that have happened. I'm going to show you how we can record that in our notebook to keep track of our thinking while we read. So let's think of, there have really been like 3 events that have happened so far. The first thing is that Kek came to the United States. I'm just going to make notes, so I'm going to write it like this. Kek moves to, and I'm going to abbreviate United States as U.S. Kek moves to the United States. Now, I just want to be able to organize my thinking, so I'm going to put a box around it to help my brain see this in a way that is organized. Kek moves to the U.S. I'm going to draw an arrow next because we're working in chronological order, or order of how things are happening in the story. Next, he meets Dave, right? Meets Dave. And again, I'm going to put a box around it. Oops. Okay, he meets Dave. Really, the third thing that's happened is that Kek has been reunited with his aunt and cousin, his cousin Gamwar. So again, I'm going to draw an arrow. And let's go to this side. And again, I'm going to put a box around it. Now, you guys should be doing this in your journal at the same time I'm doing this. What I did with my journal usually goes vertical like this, but I flipped it to go sideways so that I had more space. I wrote this at the top of the page because it's going to help me organize, because there are some details I did want to add to help keep my brain going. Because remember, we're learning a lot about the character development of Kek, and there really aren't a whole lot of events that have happened yet. But within these 3 big things, there were lots of detail. And when we're retelling or thinking about it, we don't have to add every little detail, but a few things to jog our memory. So for example, why was Kek coming to the United States? Well, he was in a refugee camp, or a place where he was seeking refuge or safety because his country was under war. Okay, so I'm going to write refugee. And I'm going to draw a line to that because that's a detail that adds in to the top. I also know, while this isn't happening in order, but they told us the internal thoughts that the reason Kek is coming to the U.S. to live with his aunt and cousin is because he has lost his family, right? He's lost his dad and brother, and they're unsure about his mom and where her whereabouts are. So I'm just going to write lost dad and brother. And I'm going to draw a line, okay? I also know Kek deeply misses home. He misses the village where he grew up, he misses his family, and he misses the community and the things that he did daily, like taking care of cows and things like that. I'm just going to write misses home. And I think this box could really go under all 3 events, because that is something the author has clearly told us over and over again throughout the story. Then, Kek meets Dave, and what's important about the details of meeting Dave? Well, Kek experiences snow for the first time, or experiences winter. I'm going to just write the word snow because that will help jog my memory. Snow. Another important thing about Dave is when they were driving to Keck's aunt and cousin's apartment, they passed a cow, and Keck convinces Dave to stop. And we learned some important things about Keck as he observed the cow. So I'm just going to write the word cow because that will be enough to remind me about that event. Everything is new to Keck. He's in a new country, a country he's never been in. They speak a different language. They speak English because he's in the United States, but where Keck comes from, he did not speak English. Keck is learning about a light switch and about a key and locking your door. Keck's never experienced having to lock his door. It said in the book, remember, it said that Keck's dad always kept them safe. So I'm just going to write everything is new, and that will remind me about all those important details. Oops, can you see that? Everything is new. Okay. Now he's reunited with his aunt and cousin. There's something really important about this, and it's communicated in several different ways. First, they remember when Keck is about to meet them, he says, "My old life is on the other side." And we journaled about that before. If you wanted to go back in your reader's journal and write where you journaled about that, you would see that we talked about what could that possibly mean. Why did he say that? He's in a new time and in the present. Why would he talk about his old life? But there's an important part to there, because then again the author brings it up again later when Ganwar refers to him as the same little boy he's always been. And Keck's cousin and aunt haven't seen him in a long time, and the way they remember him is a little boy. But the major events that have happened in Keck's life have caused him to grow up quickly, or that he doesn't feel like a little boy anymore because he's handled a lot of really big things. Time has also passed and he has gotten older. So I'm going to write seen as a little boy. There's something else that's been mentioned many times, and that's about Keck's optimism. When we read the part where his dad sings the song about Keck, and in there it speaks of how Keck is optimistic. When he talks about his mom, how he has his mom's light, that's another way of referring to his optimism. And then Dave calls it optimistic when his aunt and cousin are talking about Keck and always seeing the bright side of things. There's a second layer to that. I noticed that Ganwar and his aunt are not as optimistic as Keck, and I'm wondering if that has an important part as the story continues. So I want to hold on to that. To hold on to it, I'm going to write the word optimistic. Lastly, when Keck first saw the apartment, and as Ganwar gave him a tour, he was in awe of the amount of space in the different rooms and having a TV machine, a watching machine, a TV, having a kitchen, having all these things, a bed. He's really in awe of the privilege or the amenities and the lavishness of what it's like being in the United States so far. And so I'm going to write the word kingdom because that was the word Keck used, and I want to use that word to remind myself. Wow. Readers, I'm noticing as we read, there's a lot we have to keep in our mind, and that's one of the reasons we keep a reader's journal, that we can keep stopping to think about our reading and jot some notes down so that we can hold all these pieces together as we continue reading. Make sure you have this part in your reader's journal just like I do.